Earlier, I posted a video about the rapid price rise in nickel and how that has led to some massive losses with investors in nickel, from institutional investors who were hedging all the way down to retail investors who were short through funds like 3NIS, the Wisdom Tree short triple leveraged nickel fund. In this video, I made a comment about how nickels don't contain nickel anymore, and pretty much every single, probably 75% of you pointed out in the comments section that nickels do in fact still contain nickel in them, 25%. And on top of that, the Economic Ninja actually gave me a call and he's like, bro, you know that nickels actually do still have nickel in them today. And so today we're going to talk about that, how much nickel is in the coins and how it points to something called Greshams Law, which is good money drives out bad. Ready? Let's dive in. All right, I'd like to direct your attention here to the United States Mint, the usmint.gov, and we are going to take a look at coin specifications. And you can see here the nickel is cupro nickel. That is 25% nickel. The balance of that is copper. And so that is what a nickel is made out of today. A quarter of the metal in there is made out of nickel. Now, over the last decade or so, legislation has been attempted to try and change the composition of metal inside of nickel. One of the most popular suggestions was to make it 77% copper and 3% manganese, and then the remaining 20% of nickel. So the nickel composition would go down in the nickels by about 5%. There were other changes suggested as well to make the cost of producing a nickel much lower, but all of these suggested changes would require massive changes to any readers of coins, like vending machines or coin counters that have specific sensors in place that would have to be changed in order to recognize the new nickels as real nickels. Now, fun fact about nickels, there have been nickels and there are nickels that exist from the years 1942 through 1945 where there was 0 nickel in the US circulated nickels. This was because of the war. They were cutting down. They needed to direct the nickel for the war efforts, and so the nickels that were produced during that time didn't have any nickel in them. Instead, you can see here that they were about 35% copper, 9% manganese, and 35% silver, 56% copper, and 9% manganese. So why does this matter? Well, this contributes to something called Greshams Law, which states that bad money drives out good. And this goes back for thousands of years. If you think about the Roman Empire, for instance, when they needed more gold, they would state something like, hey, there are counterfeiters out there. There are people fraudulently counterfeiting these coins. And so in order to combat the counterfeiters, everybody needs to turn in their gold coins. What we're going to do is we're going to melt down all the gold and reissue new coins that are harder to counterfeit, and we're going to issue those back out, and then any coins that look like the old ones will no longer be accepted, and only the new ones will be accepted, and we'll give you the same number of coins back as you turn in. So it's all peachy. But instead what they would do is they got, let's just say 100%. It was always a little bit of an alloy, but they got 100% gold from the coins that were turned in, and then when they melted it down, they minted new coins with, let's say, only 90% of the gold, and then they would put more of other metals mixed in with the gold, give those coins back, and they'd hold a ton of the gold for themselves in the newly minted coins that they could spend back into the economy. This was debasement. It was dilution of the currency. And so anytime somebody got these new coins and they realized, hey, there's not as much gold in this as there was, let's say they still have one of those old coins, they're going to keep that old coin. Let's say they have something with pure gold in it, they're going to keep it, because if it says both of them are worth $1, you're going to keep the one that you know is intrinsically worth more because of the metal content, and you're going to spend the one that is worth less from the metal content, but still, if you go to spend it, you'd only be able to buy the exact same amount of stuff with them. The same sort of thing happened in India just about 5 or 10 years ago, the equivalent of their $20 bill, the Indian government said, oh, this is being counterfeited too much. There's too much money laundering and fraud. So we're going to make this bill obsolete overnight. You have 24 hours or 48 hours to turn it in, and we'll give you the equivalent amount in other bills instead. So it's not just something that happens with metal. It can also happen with fiat paper currency as well. But on top of that, this isn't just something that used to happen. This is something that's happening right now, because as we just noticed, the content of the metal inside of a nickel is still 25% nickel. It's also 75% copper. So it's made up of real stuff that has real industrial value. And as the federal government continues to increase the money supply through deficit spending funded by the Fed printing money, we are going to see prices continue to rise. And as prices continue to rise, the prices of things like copper and nickel are going to continue to rise. This means that while the stated value of a nickel might be 5 cents, and if you go to a store or a government entity to purchase something, that 5-cent piece will only get you 5 cents worth of stuff. It means that the actual metal that's in that coin might end up being worth more than 5 cents. Which brings us to the website Coinflation.com, and this is a website that the Economic Ninja pointed me to when he called me to tell me, hey, nickels still have nickel in them. You can take a look there. It has a bunch of other calculators on here, but we're just looking right now at the nickels in between 1946 and 2014. We can see here, obviously, the denomination is 5 cents. We can see the composition, 75% copper and 25% nickel. And they show you the calculations here that are updated daily. And we can see here that the melt value for the coin is actually 8 cents. That means that if you melt down a nickel, separate the copper from the nickel, you have 8 cents worth of metal today at today's prices. That 5 cents on that nickel is not going to change. That means that, maybe 8 cents isn't enough of a difference for most people to do something about it. But if you've got enough nickels and you've got a way to melt them down cheap enough, you can turn 5 cents into 8 cents. And again, maybe that's not enough to do at scale. That probably doesn't mean anything for anybody. It's not going to make anybody say, hey, it's worth it to start hoarding all of my nickels, because it's only a 3-cent difference. And to actually do something with that metal, the costs involved with that might be more than the 3-cent difference in just the price of the metal that composes the coins. However, if we still see inflation continue, this becomes more and more and more of a difference. We might see a nickel worth 9 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents. And if it costs that much to produce these, it's very, very likely that we see legislation pass through to cause the composition of the nickel to change. So let's just say, hypothetically, we see a nickel come out then that can be produced with metal that's only worth 3 cents, 4 cents, 5 cents, 6 cents, but the old nickels that are currently being made today are worth 15 cents or 20 cents by their metal composition. You get home, you've gotten some change from the grocery store, and you see 2 coins. They're both a nickel. They're both worth 5 cents if you were to go and spend them on something. But you know that one of them was produced before the composition change happened. The other one was produced after the composition change happened. So if you melt both of them down, one of them has metal worth 5 cents. If you melt the other one down, it has metal worth 20 cents. Which one, if you have a choice, are you going to spend? The one with the metal worth 20 cents or the one with the metal worth 5 cents? You're going to spend the one with the metal worth 5 cents. You're going to keep the one with the metal worth 20 cents. You're going to pile them up and hoard them and keep them and eventually melt them down and be able to sell them for more than what the cost was worth. You can get 5 cents and turn it into 20 cents. Now, of course, not everybody's going to do this. Of course, there's a very small amount, but you will have actors be able to do this at scale. And that's why you see really old coins with much higher levels of things like silver silver or gold or nickel. You don't see them in circulation anymore because they've been taken out of circulation because they're much more valuable than what the stated amount of value is on that coin. So nobody's going to spend it because they're giving away free money. And this is Gresham's Law, that bad money drives out good money. And so that's why you see at the end life cycle of currencies, as fiat currencies start to face collapse, you see people dumping the currency as fast as possible, because even if you're storing your wealth in gold, even if you're storing your wealth in Bitcoin, even if you have real estate and have stocks and have your assets and your wealth outside of fiat currency, you haven't just saved up a cash pile, you're not going to get rid of those unless you are forced to. If you want to go spend money, you're going to spend your fiat because that's the thing that's going to lose its value fastest. And so we wouldn't expect in the collapse of a fiat currency until the very, very end final stages to see the circulation or the medium of exchange aspect of a new money like gold or Bitcoin come into play. You'd expect to see that dollars or whatever currency it is in your country to be the thing that is traded for goods and services right up until the very end, because nobody wants to get rid of their good money. Bad money drives out good money because everybody hoards the good money and spends the bad money until nobody will any longer accept it. And once you start to see people not accepting it anymore, like we look at Venezuela and Lebanon and Argentina and Zimbabwe and all the countries that have experienced hyperinflation, you see this happening. At some point, private merchants switch over. Sometimes it's legal, sometimes it's illegal, sometimes it's black market there. And so you see them switch over and they say, you know what, I'm no longer going to accept the paper. I will only accept, maybe in another country like Lebanon right now, they say, oh, I'll only accept dollars or I'll only accept euros. Maybe they'll accept gold, maybe they'll accept Bitcoin, but they're no longer accepting the Lebanese pound, the lira. So we are going to see a similar thing play out where there will be people that say, hey, if we were really going to see Bitcoin take over as money, if we were really going to see gold come back as money, we would see people using it. That's not true. People are going to hoard it and they're going to use their fiat currency until the very end, until nobody will accept it any longer. So that's Gresham's Law, and I apologize for getting it wrong about the nickels there. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day.